Welcome back to AM Northwest. If you have any leftover corned beef from St. Patrick's Day, our next guests have a delicious idea for using it up. We welcome back co-authors of over 30 cookbooks, including the Instant Pot Bible, Bruce Weinstein and Mark Scarbrough. Good to see you guys again.
Hi, Ellen.
Hi,
Always
Ellen.
good to see you.
And, you know, this is a little silly, right? Because who has leftover corned beef? So
That's what I say when people say they have leftover wine. Like, how is that possible? It's just
I
not
don't even
possible.
want to know the people who have leftover corned beef.
If
Right.
you buy enough and make enough, look, I grew up in a house where my mother always taught me when you're cooking for company, you start with a chicken a person and you go from there. So there's always going to be some leftovers.
I love that. That's a great way to think, too. I think there should always be leftovers, absolutely, when it comes to food, great food.
Yesterday, we did make a bunch of corned beef, and I have a chunk that's left, and we're going to make a breakfast corned beef hash with this piece of corned beef right here. So I'm going to cut it up and talk to you about what we do when we buy corned beef.
Okay, yeah, right. So just so we know, corned beef, right, is a preserved kind of brisket. It's a brisket.
Okay.
Not a meat. And it's been preserved, and it's been cured or brined in some way, usually with a set of spices. And, you know, when you make it, it's essentially about ready to eat when you buy it, right?
No.
You have to heat them up.
No, they're tough as
But I
can
mean,
be.
you don't have to corn them.
No, you don't have to pickle them,
Right.
but you must cook them. They're still raw.
Okay.
Now, if you want to make this without having to cook a corned beef, you
Right.
could go to the deli counter and have them cut you a giant slab of deli corned beef, like for sandwiches, and start from scratch. But when you have a lot of corned
And that's
beef left,
just ready to eat.
that's ready to
That's
eat.
just ready to eat.
Okay.
This is ready to eat because we made it yesterday and it's leftovers. So Mark's going to show you how to start the base of this hash.
So the hash starts breakfast hash, right? So this is good breakfast, weekendy thing, I suppose. It starts with butter because, you know, butter is a beverage.
Yeah. Everything's better with butter.
Butter's a beverage.
Uh-huh.
Excellent.
So you start with butter, and I've got my Instant Pot on saute, and I'm melting the butter in there, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put my aromatics in, which are my onions, and I've got some chopped up bell pepper. So all this is going into the pot to make this kind of base, you know, the base stuff. You know, you have to. This is gonna go under pressure. You have to cook these things till they're totally soft. No, not when you're working in Instant Pot, because the pressure's going to kind of take care of it. But
Okay.
you do kind of want to just let them soften a little bit, right?
Cooking onions and butter brings out their sweetness. Onions have a lot of sugar in them.
Yeah.
So by doing this, you're bringing out the sweetness, losing some of that harsh onioniness,
Yeah.
and then Mark's going to put the spices in next.
So I have garlic. You guys had a recipe for to put up on the site, but there's garlic and sage and celery seed and
And thyme and salt and pepper.
right.
Now, even though corned beef is salty, we put a little salt in this because the potatoes eat salt.
Oh, sure.
Potatoes eat salt. And once we get this cooking, I'm going to give you a trick about saltiness.
So, and here's another thing: if you work a lot with Instant Pots, we wrote 4 books on them, and what I can tell you we learned is that Instant Pots eat spices.
Yeah.
They just seem to disappear. The flavors seem to eat.
Oh, okay.
So whatever recipe you're working with, just even think about, like, if you're a garlic lover, double the garlic. It's not like cooking on a stove. This thing just absolutely eats the flavors up.
Gotcha.
Really
Oh, yeah.
works. Okay, so then I'm going to put potatoes in. These are Yukon Gold yellow potatoes. They're better than red skin. You don't want to use baking potatoes. And we don't peel them. And this is a little interesting food fact. Do you know that most of the fiber and nutrients are lying about a half an inch or 1 centimeter below the skin and toward the skin on a potato? So when you peel it, you actually can take off some of the essential nutrients that potatoes have in them. So
Don't peel your potatoes.
we're not going to peel them.
So in go those potatoes, and in goes the corned beef I chopped up. Mark's going to stir that around, and then I'm going to add some chicken broth, and we're going to cover that. And, you know, when you cook under pressure, you're cooking in a wet environment, right? Steam is going to happen. Cook those potatoes. But then when you undo it, it's wet, right? So it's
Yeah.
not a crispy hash. So what's going to happen? After 12 minutes, we're going to do a quick release, open it back up, put it back on the saute function to let all that moisture bubble away, and then fry it in there. And then we end up with, Mark can grab it from over here, we end up with a lovely browned.
Yum. Oh, yeah, that looks good.
Because, so much of what, no offense, listen, we read 4 Instant Pot books, and I love my Instant Pot.
Dude.
But sometimes what comes out of an Instant Pot is awful gray.
Yeah.
And so you kind of want to let that liquid boil back down and crisp it up a little bit.
It's good. I can tell you that it's really good.
And let it go.
Now, I told you I had a trick about the salt of corned beef.
Right.
Now, you can buy low sodium corned beef. They're much more expensive. I have found that if I take the corned beef out of its package the day before, rinse it off, and then put it in a giant pot of cold water and set that in the fridge, the water through osmosis actually pulls some of that salt out.
Oh,
That's
okay.
a little less salt.
Okay.
And here's a second tip. Ready? So right now, today, tomorrow, corned beef is on sale at your store.
There you go. There you go. I love your tips. We want to tell everyone your book again is titled The Instant Pot Bible. Bruce and Mark, always great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Helen.
You bet. We'll be right back with more AM Northwest. Don't go away.